Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling startups.
Yeah, startups. Always exciting. But we're focusing on the ethical side of things.
Exactly. Those big, crazy dreams and how those can sometimes clash with doing the right thing.
Especially these days. Consumers are really starting to care about a company's values. It's not just about the product anymore.
That's so true. And it's at the heart of what we're looking at today. Our source material is this article, Pipe Dreams in Startups. Do we see the fine line? Catchy title, right?
Definitely grabs your attention. And it really digs into this constant tension, between ambition and responsibility.
A tension that I'm sure a lot of you listening can relate to, especially if you're thinking about investing in a startup or even launching your own.
Absolutely. And that's what we're hoping this deep dive will help you with figuring out how to balance those big ambitions with, well, integrity.
Let's unpack this idea of pipe dreams first. It sounds kind of, I don't know, whimsical.
Yeah, it does have a sort of idealistic ring to it, but in the startup world, pipe dreams are anything but whimsical.
Okay, so not like childhood fantasies then.
Not quite. Think about it. Pipe dreams are what fuel innovation. They're the driving force.
Give us some examples.
Hmm?
All right, what are we talking about here?
Tesla, for instance. Their goal of a sustainable future. Back then, that was a pipe dream. Amazon revolutionizing e-commerce.
Yeah.
SpaceX making space travel. Well, normal.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. When you put it like that, those were huge ambitions.
Exactly. And those pipe dreams, those bold visions, they're what draw in the talent, the investors, even the customers.
It's almost like the startup world thrives on this sense of possibility. Like anything is possible if you dream big enough.
Right. And that's what makes it so exciting. But, and there's always a but, that's where things can get complicated.
Reality sets in. The pressure builds.
Yeah, exactly. Startups are under immense pressure to grow and fast. And sometimes to reach those grand visions, well, compromises get made.
Ethical compromises.
Yeah. And that's where things can go wrong. The need to achieve those goals, that need for speed, it can lead to situations where ethics, they take a back seat.
And we've seen that happen, haven't we? Stories of startups that went too far.
Oh, absolutely. The Theranos story, a prime example. Revolutionary blood testing technology, that was the promise. But in the end, their vision overshadowed ethical testing, transparency. The whole thing imploded.
It's a pretty stark reminder that ambition without, well, a moral compass can be disastrous.
It really is. And it's not just Theranos. Uber, remember. Their aggressive tactics to win the ride-sharing market, bypassing regulations, questions about driver treatment, it raises some tough questions.
Yeah, like what are you willing to sacrifice to win? And is it really a win if you compromise your values along the way?
Right. And what's fascinating is that both Theranos and Uber, they had such compelling initial visions. They tapped into something people really wanted.
Which makes it even more cautionary, right? It shows how that pressure to be disruptive, to be the next big thing, it can sometimes lead to ethical shortcuts.
And that's when trust erodes. Consumers, employees, the public, everyone loses. And rebuilding that trust, it's incredibly difficult.
It makes you wonder, is it even possible? Can startups chase these huge dreams without losing their way ethically?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can you dream big and do the right thing? Well, the good news is there are companies proving that it is possible.
Okay, tell me more, because that's what I want to hear. That you can be ambitious and ethical.
And they're not just surviving, they're thriving, showing that ethical practices can actually be a competitive advantage.
Give me an example, a company that's really doing it right.
Look at Patagonia. Built a wildly successful business, super popular, all around their commitment to, making sustainable outdoor gear.
They walk the walk, basically. Their actions match their values.
Exactly. Their pipe dream, their vision, it's inseparable from their ethical practices. And that resonates with consumers, people who share those values.
So it's not just about marketing, it's authentic.
100%. Patagonia is a great example of what we call ethical growth. It's this idea that startups can scale responsibly, making decisions that are good for business and be good for the community.
Ethical growth, I like that. It's like redefining what success means.
It really is. It's about recognizing that long-term success isn't just about profit. It's about positive impact as well.
So it's more than just having a feel-good mission statement on your website. It's about actually living it, right?
Absolutely. Integrating ethical considerations into everything you do.
Yeah.
Supply chains, how you treat employees, how you interact with customers.
Taking it part of the DNA of the company.
That's it. And that's what sets companies like Patagonia apart.
Okay, so Patagonia, got it. Now let's talk about Zomato, the food delivery app, right?
Yeah.
They've been in the news lately because of their rebrand to Eternal.
Yeah, big change. And it reflects their ambition to be more than just a food delivery app. They're aiming to become this sprawling tech platform.
So from delivering your favorite pad thai to what? Like taking over the world. It's a pretty bold move.
No doubt. And Zomato's journey is a really interesting case study. Their initial focus was simple: a great customer experience for food delivery. Now they want to be everything to everyone.
Which begs the question, right? Can they hold on to their original values while chasing this much bigger dream?
Exactly. Will they be able to handle the potential ethical challenges that come with that kind of rapid growth and diversification?
It's a tightrope walk, isn't it? Balancing ambition with the principles that made them successful in the first place. It's almost like a test case, isn't it? Can you really have it all? The massive growth, A&D, the ethical integrity.
Zomato's definitely going to be one to watch, that's for sure. But it raises a bigger question, doesn't it? At what point does ambition, become a problem? When does it start to erode those values?
Right. Like, is there a way to prevent that from happening? Some kind of, I don't know, guidebook for startups. Ethical decision-making 101.
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But there are definitely key principles that can, well, help keep things on track.
Okay, so, like, what? What are we talking about here?
Well, it starts with the company's culture. Ethical responsibility, it can't be an afterthought. You can't just tack it on later once you've made it big.
So not just a framed code of ethics on the wall gathering dust.
Exactly. It has to be lived every day, embedded in every decision, every interaction.
So how do you do that? I mean, practically speaking.
You ask yourself the tough questions constantly. How will this decision impact our employees, our customers, the community?
And maybe the toughest one of all.
Are we putting profit ahead of people? If the answer is yes, well, that's a big red flag. Time to step back and reevaluate.
This is making me think about transparency, too. Consumers, I mean, we're not stupid. We can see right through a company that's not being genuine.
Oh, transparency is huge. It's a foundation of trust. And trust is, well, it's everything.
So it's not just about doing the right thing. It's about showing people that you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. Think of it as accountability. Being willing to admit when you mess up, learn from it, make things right.
In the long run, that's what builds a strong reputation.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got ethical culture, we've got transparency. What else? What other things can startups actually DO to make sure they're on the right path?
Give us some actionable stuff.
One thing is broadening their focus, thinking beyond just profit, considering the wider impact of their actions.
Like what? Give me some specifics.
Data privacy, for one, diversity and inclusion, their impact on the environment, their role in the community, all that stuff.
It's like we have to redefine what success looks like. It's not just the bottom line anymore.
Right. And that's something consumers are really starting to pay attention to. People want to support businesses that are doing good in the world.
So it's not just feel-good stuff. It actually makes good business sense.
Exactly. It's a win-win. But here's the thing. How do we encourage more startups to embrace this whole ethical growth thing?
Yeah, good question. Is it just about education? Or are there bigger forces at play here?
Honestly, it's complicated. I think part of it is ambitious about changing the mindset. We got to move away from this growth at all costs mentality.
It's so ingrained in the startup world, though. Grow or die, right?
We've got to redefine what success means. It's not just about how much money you make, but how W you make it.
And that's where investors come in, right? They have a lot of power to influence things.
Oh, absolutely. And consumers, too. When we support companies that are ethical, we're sending a clear message. Integrity matters.
It's like we're voting with our wallets.
Yeah.
And our investment dollars.
Exactly. That kind of collective action, that can really make a difference. We can create a culture where ethical growth is the expectation, not just a nice to have.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Pipe dreams, the allure, the potential pitfalls, ethical culture, transparency, this idea of ethical growth. What's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all this?
I think the most important thing is that startups, they don't have to choose. Ambition and integrity, they're not mutually exclusive. You can have both.
You can chase those crazy dreams. A&D, stay true to your values. It's possible.
It's the challenge, A&D, the opportunity for the next generation of startups.
So what about our listeners? Where do they fit into all of this?
Well, whether you're an investor, an entrepreneur, or just someone who cares about these things, you have a role to play. We all do.
We're all connected, basically, and we all have a responsibility to make sure things are, moving in the right direction, ethically.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It really comes down to choices, doesn't it? The companies we support, the products we buy, where we invest our money, it all sends a message.
So, okay, that makes sense. But it can feel kind of overwhelming, like how much impact can one person really have?
Well, I think the first step is just being aware, educating yourself, asking the right questions.
Like, how do you know who to trust?
Do your research, seriously. Dig into the companies you're interested in. Don't just take their marketing at face value. Go deeper. Find out what they're really all about.
Be a little skeptical, maybe.
I think a healthy dose of skepticism is always a good thing. And don't be afraid to push back. Demand more from the businesses you interact with. Hold them accountable.
Because in the end, we all benefit when businesses are doing things the right way, right?
Absolutely. We want companies that are innovative, that are solving problems, but doing it ethically, sustainably.
Okay, so to wrap things up here, I want to leave you with something to think about. Think of a company you really admire, one that you think is doing things right.
Yeah, a company that really embodies this whole ethical growth idea. What are they doing that makes them stand out?
And what would it take for more companies to follow their lead? Yeah, how do we create a culture where this becomes the norm, not the exception?
It's a big question, but it's one worth asking. The future kind of depends on it, don't you think?
I think you're right. The future of startups, maybe even the future of business as a whole, finding that balance between ambition and integrity.
Well said. It's been a great conversation. Thanks for having me.
And to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of startups, pipe dreams, and ethical responsibility. Catch you next time for another fascinating exploration